Welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. Lunchtime Politics begins right now. Niger military junta are reported to have threatened to kill deposed leader Mohamed Bazoum if ECOWAS military force intervenes as leaders of the region deploy standby military force to restore democracy. Ohanes Ndigo decries President Bola Tinubu's choosing of 5 ministerial nominees from the Southeast region, describes it as unfair and unjust. Adamawa, Borno and Enugu state governors swear in commissioners into their cabinets over 2 months into their tenure. We'll begin with our top story at this hour. It's the morning after ECOWAS authorities met in the nation's capital, Abuja, to decide on the next line of action to resolve the crisis in Niger. Well, the situation now appears to have escalated, with reports of the military junta threatening to kill deposed leader Mohamed Bazoum if neighboring ECOWAS countries attempt any military intervention to reinstate him. Well, the Associated Press reports that 2 Western officials said the junta issued the threat while speaking to a top U.S. diplomat before the ECOWAS heads met yesterday. Well, the leaders of the Economic Community of West African States do not seem to be mincing words themselves, as they resolved that no option is taken off the table in resolving the political crisis, and that includes the use of force. Our State House correspondent Larry Lassisi reports.
It's the second extraordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS taking place at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. The focus of this meeting is the political situation in Niger Republic following the expiration of the 7-day ultimatum given for the return of democratic rule to Niger.
Excellency,
the chairperson of ECOWAS welcomes the members with an outline of the efforts by the bloc, including sanctions and mediation efforts that are yet to yield results. He advocates more diplomatic efforts and dialogue.
It is crucial that we prioritize diplomatic negotiations and dialogue as the bedrock of our approach. We did. And we still look to engage the party involved, including the Coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested.
The body then goes into a closed-door session to review the developments since its last meeting.
We have reaffirmed our commitment.
Hours later, the doors are thrown open and the chairperson gives his closing remarks. He reiterates that all options will be considered in ensuring a peaceful resolution of the situation in Niger.
No option is taken off the table, including the use of force as a last resort. If we don't do it, no one else will do it for us.
It is then time for the reading of the communique.
Uphold all measures and principles agreed upon by the extraordinary summit held on Niger on 30th July 2023. Underscore the determination of the ECOWAS authority to keep all options on the table for the peaceful resolution of the crisis. Enforce all measures, in particular border closures and strict travel bans and assets freeze, on all persons or groups of individuals whose actions hinder all peaceful efforts aimed at ensuring the smooth and complete restoration of constitutional order. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
ECOWAS is urging the African Union to endorse their decisions while asking partner countries and institutions, including the United Nations, for support to ensure a quick resolution of constitutional order in Niger Republic. Some of the presidents who spoke later make clear their resolve on the matter.
ECOWAS cannot accept this. This is not a matter of Nigeria against Niger, not at all. The decision that we have made today, and I hope it will be implemented immediately, is a decision of ECOWAS. All the head of states think that we have tried dialogue with the putsch of Niger. I personally consider this as a terrorist act, and we cannot let this continue. We have to act. The position of Côte d'Ivoire, which has been endorsed by all of the head of states, and that we have been able to tell these putschists that their place is in the barracks.
Well, if we had made mistakes in the past, we should try to correct it now. There is always a time to get started. I think it was a mistake not to have taken action previously, but now that we are together on this, we should take action to make sure that it does not continue.
It's the end of the second extraordinary session on the political situation in the Republic of Niger, and it's now time to see if this set of resolutions will bring the much-needed stability and the return of democracy to that country. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, it's a peculiar situation, some would say. So let's get some insight into this. We're joined by Professor Abolade Adeniji of the Department of History and International Relations, Lagos State University. He joins us from Jos this afternoon. Thank you, Prof, for joining us on Lunchtime Politics. Well, so much has happened, but I think the biggest one is that report that came in after the meeting that the military junta in Niger have threatened to kill deposed leader Mohamed Bazoum. That's if ECOWAS gets involved militarily. Now, it's important to put this in proper perspective because according to the report, that statement was made before the ECOWAS authorities and heads of state met yesterday. But nonetheless, it is of importance. So how does this change the dynamics of things, really, Prof? Okay, looks like we've lost connection with Professor Adeniji, but we'll, of course, get back to him to get his informed perspective on this, particularly from the historical point of view as well, because some will say, maybe we've been here before with some other countries. I mean, Nigeria's had its own infamous history with that as well. But it's important to also put in perspective that there were several presidents who attended that meeting yesterday. We had the president of the Republic of Benin, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Togo, Burundi. In fact, the president of Mauritania was there, and of course the host president and the chair of ECOWAS Authority, President Bola Tinubu, was there. So a total of 10 presidents were present at that meeting yesterday. And it's important to note that there was a representation from Niger, not from, of course, the military junta, but of course the Foreign Affairs Minister from Niger was present at that meeting, and as well as the ministers from the Gambia, Liberia, and Cabo Verde's ambassador to Nigeria. You may have noticed that countries like, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mali were not represented, and that's of course because there's been that situation of coup in those countries as well. Some of them, of course, not part of ECOWAS. But let's see if we can get back to Professor Abolade Adeniji on this all-important matter. Prof, if you're back, can you give us your perspective now? I was asking about what you think of the recent pronouncement of the military junta, which was reported by Associated Press that they would kill Mr. Bazoum if ECOWAS gets involved militarily.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think the first thing is this, okay? We have to be sure that this so-called pronouncement is actually true, because I cannot imagine, that a supposed or purported government will be issuing that kind of threat. It is irresponsible, it is uncalled for, and I'm very weary of accepting it like that. But if it turns out that that is what is actually said, that the threat is that the president will be eliminated, that would be unfortunate. And it will say a lot about the character of the coupists, because that will amount to a very, very childish, if not juvenile pronouncement. I have my doubts. But if that is so, I doubt if they can begin to think of carrying out that kind of threat, because it will have huge implications, even for them. So I really have my doubt, and we really hope that it does not take place. Because if it does, it simply means that, well, that, to begin with, is the end of that regime, because there will now be cause for ECOWAS to activate its intervention force. And I can assure you that there are many other actors that will be interested in the matter. So let us just pretend that it's not true, because I cannot begin to imagine what the consequences will be.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Prof, because amidst all of this, another challenge which we have to grapple with is cutting through all of the channel noise, deciding or knowing what is propaganda, what is fake news, and what is actually the truth. Because two officials are being quoted to have reported this, two American diplomats reported to have said that, the military junta said this. And as we put the caveat, it's reported to have been said by the military junta. But give us perspective from history, Prof, because you have, experience in this. What does history tell us about this situation in Niger? Have we been here before, maybe in the ECOWAS region or on the African continent, such that we can learn from what happened then and put that to use now?
Well, the point was this. We have to accept that it is a unique situation, okay? Yes, Nigeria has had to intervene before, trying to sort out instability in some other parts of West Africa. But this is unique because, to begin with, for those who have had to intervene with in the past, that is this kind of active intervention on neighbors. That is, we have not had to threaten to use military force to bring a government back before. I can't recall that haven't happened. Of course, we have had to mediate, whether it's in Niger, whether it's in Chad, and some other countries. We have done that. But to stay within 7 days, a government should vacate. We've never had to do that. And you see, the point is this. What is unique about this situation is that for 15 years or thereabouts in the West African sub-region, we were spared from this spate of coups, military takeover and all that. And we thought we were achieving some level of stability. Then something happened in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and then it appeared as if a new trend was arising. And it's a trend that had to be curtailed, because the point is that at the end of the day, it's unfortunate to think that at this level, at this time, we'll be talking of military intervention. We've passed through that before. We know what the consequences have been. Okay, so I can appreciate why the West African leaders, are attempting to take the action that they are threatening to take, because they know that this could become a contagion. And before you know it, it begins to spread. And then we get back to what it was before the 1990s, before that second wave. We don't want that. So I cannot think of a situation where we had to give 7-day threat for any government to vacate its authority. No, we've not had to do that. But something, not exactly so, but something similar had happened in the sense that we have intervened before, but we've not found ourselves in this kind of situation.
Let's wind down with this, Prof. I know there's now the conversation about why we're seeing that trend of coups in this region. Yes, I know the region has been known as the coup belt prior to this point, but as you said, for over a decade now, we had seen a lull in that area. So there's a talk about what exactly is responsible for this. What do the coming years hold for us? But particularly for this Niger situation, if it has been said that dialogue is being waved aside by the military junta, they're not really speaking to ECOWAS, AU, and even some Western countries, and military option is the only option available, it would seem, if diplomatic or dialogue is not working. Really, what then is the next step to take? Because I think that everyone has been quite divided on what the next step to take is.
Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday himself re-echoed the fact that military intervention is the last option, you know, and one welcomes that. Well, the point is this. If you say military option is a last option, it means that you want to resort to diplomacy. Now, you want diplomatic solution, but it would appear up till now that the other side has not been very open to dialogue. I mean, they have responded interventions from various quarters. As far as I know, it's the only private initiative of the the emir that's the only party they have agreed to meet. West African leaders, you know, not putting that option on the table. It does make sense. And it would appear that they are very determined to see this matter through. Okay? We hope that military intervention does not have to take place. But let me just say this. We may not even have to resort to military intervention. The information I got at private level is that, look, if this situation persists, even in Niger Republic, it is only a matter of time before the citizens begin to turn against the regime, because it is a nation that is very dependent on others for its survival. It's not a self-sufficient nation. Well, so I would just say that we have put sanctions in place. What we can do is wait and watch. Let sanctions work.
Indeed, Prof.
Don't jump into any hasty military action. Okay,
Indeed, Prof.
And then we'll see how we go the next 2-3 weeks.
And see how all of these pan out. But would like to appreciate you for those insights, really, Professor Abolade Adeniji of the Department of History and International Relations, Lagos State University. Thank you so much for your time, Prof. Well, let's talk.
Thank you very much.
Politics in Nigeria now. The Apex Igbo Socio-Political Organization, Ohanaeze Ndigbo, has decried President Bola Tinubu's nomination of only 5 ministers from the Southeast, describing it as unfair and unjust. The group expressed their displeasure in a statement signed by President General Chief Emmanuel Umayawu. A part of the statement reads, "The Ohanaeze Ndigbo worldwide is disturbed over the current appointment of ministers in Nigeria by His Excellency, Mr. President Bola Tinubu. In the appointment, the Southeast has only 5 ministers, while some other zones have 9 and even 10 ministers. The statement goes on to say, recall that the state and geopolitical zones were created by the military administrations. All honest Nigerians know that the Igbo did not play much part during the exercise. The association is demanding justice, fairness, and equity for every ethnic group in Nigeria, including the Igbo." Well, staying in the region, governors of the Southeast have reaffirmed their commitment to fight insecurity decisively in partnership with the federal government and other stakeholders. And according to the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum and the governor of Imo State, Mr. Hope Uzodimma, the governors unanimously agreed that perpetrators and sponsors of insecurity in the region are criminals and should be treated as such.
The forum firmly resolved to fight insecurity decisively, individually and collectively, in partnership with the federal government of Nigeria and other stakeholders. We commend the security agencies for their cooperation and achievements thus far, and encourage them not to relent. We wish to categorically state that the perpetrators of the insecurity and their sponsors in our region are criminals and should not be seen as legitimate agitators. Therefore, upon arrest, they should be dealt with in accordance with the laws of the land. The forum resolved to hold the Security and Economic Summit for Southeast region on a date to be announced soon.
So those were the resolutions from that meeting of the Southeast governors at the Enugu State Government House yesterday. But let's delve much deeper into this one. We're joined by Mr. Oguwuka Nwachukwu, who's a media advisor to the Imo State Governor, who's the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. He joins us virtually from Owerri this afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the program. I see that, again, the Southeast governors have come together, and a lot of people have said that is key to resolving the security situation in the Southeast, the collaboration of the governors. But then some of the security agencies spoke yesterday, and I'd like to get your reaction to some of the things they said. The NSCDC, for example, saying they do not get support from the communities in fighting insecurity. And I think that has been reiterated time and again. So how are the governors trying to combat that? Because the people are vital to fighting insecurity.
Thank you so very much, Kayode, for this opportunity. You captured it succinctly when you said the governors met yesterday and took certain decisions on the way forward. And we need to lay the foundation, of what happened yesterday. For instance, if you were there, and I'm sure your people were there, you could see the camera there, that was that meeting, an indication that the type of leadership that the zone requires now, to provide all the needed political and socio-economic stability, are there. So we commend the governors for, the steps they took yesterday. Rightly pointed out, communicate the points that were raised, and I think it's a way forward. One thing that is obvious is that the Southeast Governors Forum, today has a focused leadership, under the leadership of the governor of Imo State, distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, who is also the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum. You see, leadership is everything, and what is fundamental about the meeting that was held yesterday is the fact that all the governors from the Southeast attended that meeting. You may recall that over the years, it was not so. It's either one or two governors and they will send representatives. But the situation yesterday, the tide has changed simply because there's the leadership, that understands, where the people are going. And they're like the popular mass, when you tell the people the truth, they'll follow you. I think that's where we are.
Asking also about the plan to get the buy-in of communities in the fight against insecurity. But let me just tie that to this point. The Ohanaeze Ndigbo put out a statement, which I'm sure you're aware of, and it's also been said that the perceived marginalization of the Southeast by governments is responsible partly for insecurity in the region because of the agitations and the rest. And I'd like to know if, at least from the perspective of a chairman of a governors forum and perhaps other governors, if they've seen any changes with this Tinubu government, not forgetting that Ohanaeze Ndigbo says, with the ministerial appointment, they think things are still the same.
I think the entire Igbo people, are in agreement that security is key to progress, is key to socio-economic development, is key to political stability and all that. And over the years, our people have suffered a lot as a result of, this menace of insecurity. And like I said, yesterday's meeting has provided a pathway, to solving the security the insecurity in the south, in the region. Mind you, if there's, the region is properly secured, every other thing will fall into place. Now, Ohaneze, remains the apex sociocultural organization of the Igbo land. And Ohaneze is also in agreement with the political leadership of the party, for the region to have a peaceful and secure environment for people to go about their businesses without less on hindrance. And I think that's the sentiment. That's the sentiment. First and foremost, secure our people, and then every other thing will come into play, both politically, culturally, economically, and otherwise. It's not about politics now. If the environment is not peaceful enough, you can't even make a case, for additional political appointments or whatever. You can't find whatever business you're doing. So this issue of insecurity is key to, the dream of the Igbo land. It's key to the dream of every Igbo person, both the leaders and the led. And I think that's exactly what is playing out.
Well, as always, we wish all states of the Federation, and particularly the Southeast states, the very best, and of course, help in every way we can as a media to raise these issues and to give voice to all of the issues that need propagated. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Ogwuike Nwachukwu, the media advisor to the Imo State Governor, who's also the chairman of the Southeast Governors Forum. Thank you so much for your time on the program this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Well, more on governance, but this time across other states. And we'll start off in Adamawa State, where Governor Umaru Fintiri has sworn in 23 new commissioners as part of its plan for the second phase of its development agenda aimed at uplifting the living standard of the people. And he says that the new commissioners must initiate clear and actionable programs in their various ministries that will further propel the state forward in the trajectory of meaningful development. And in Borno State, this time around, a total of 17 commissioners were sworn in to serve as Executive Council members in Governor Babagana Zulum's second term, and that's against the 22 that served in his first tenure. He also swore in 3 Pioneer Chief Special Advisors to serve in his cabinet. He says the shoveling of the cabinet is to ensure effective implementation of strategic development. And now to Enugu State, where 20 commissioners were sworn in by Governor Peter Umba to constitute his Executive Council. And he asked them to get to work immediately. He, of course, reiterated his commitment to the exponential growth of a state's economy, speedy provision of socio-economic infrastructure, and human capital development in the state. Well, that's our package for this afternoon. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. I'm Kayode Vikilu. Goodbye.